right. Did I miss any games? I don't know. This is Turdz, Tezuka continuing. Turd's first turn. Tezuka has mostly at first turn so far. The instinct is first turn should have an advantage on this set, though Tezuka was definitely on the back foot last time. I would like to shout out, I think I did last time, but Tezuka using this 5663, it's not absurd. We've seen some value to fives facing out. There's a lot of combo potential against sixes and sevens in a way there isn't against fives. Let's check if I missed any games. I don't think I did. Oh, it looks like this is the next game. Great. Um, Turdz mentioned in the chat that 6565 had some uses, just not being as comboable because sixes and sevens are hit so hard on level 5 when everything is so clean and lines up so well. But it does seem a strange choice in a world where there's 6663. I'd be curious what Tezuka's thoughts are here. I kind of love the use, not for any practical purpose, but just because it is so clear what the power cards are. And level 5 is so powerful. 676s with 3s, 2s, even sometimes 1s are just very powerful. 6663s, 6662s see a lot of use if you're not running the 676s. There are 7-7 corners. 7654s are pretty fun to play with. Like, everything is so powerful and there's so many choices. And 6653 is so far down that priority list that it's kind of fun to see it being used in the quarterfinals of a major tournament by not the reigning champion of the tournament, but Tezuka did win the season the year before this. He wins TTAC16. I believe he loses in 15 to the eventual winner, Delial. Though I'd have to check that. So it's just to say this is a very much top tier TTAC player. So Turd starts with 6-5, 6-5, and 5, and this looks like what his hand is built to do with the other cards ready to surround it. But I would note, Tezuka's cards are also ready to surround it. So the question is, can Tezuka create inconvenience? Now here's the thing about a starter like this. I think it really lines up well against corners. If we start looking at corners for Tezuka, we're like, okay, 6-3, 6-7, and 3. Yep, that sets up my opponent lots of different ways. Note that even something like 6-3, 6-7, and 1 sets up your opponent a whole bunch of ways. What about 6-3, 6-7, and 9? Yep, lots of pluses. What about 2-6, 7-6, and 1? Is that any better? I mean, it's a little better, maybe, but like, it's not like the 2-6, 7-6, and 1 or 3 isn't susceptible to combos from both squares in both spots, right? 6-7-6-2, how does that look? No, it's all going to be the same things because the hand is virtually symmetrical. Might line up slightly differently on each one, but like I would note, a 6 facing up from 7 is not actually comboable by Turd's hand because it's not quite symmetrical. So maybe you could sneak something there. Like maybe 6-6-3-6 in 7 is a little bit interesting. You have more play on it than they do. Your 6-7-6-2 recapture in 4 is kind of difficult for them to deal with. Of course, you have trouble recapturing it from 8, but maybe we can work around this. So maybe that's interesting. Maybe something with a 6 up and exactly 7 is interesting. Or a 6 down and exactly 1, which maybe brings us to 5-6-6-3. But I was going to say, it seems more natural to me to go in a side square. The corners are really well covered, but the sides are not necessarily so well covered. So what Tezuka says here is, I'm playing with a 6 up and down, and we already know that 6s up and down, because we were just looking at it, are the numbers Turdz has the most trouble with. Tezuka creates both at once, and he says, either of your captures here, I have combo play against. 7-6, 2-6, and 9, I have a same in 8, and it's 2-6, 7-6, and 3, I have a same in 2. Sames are, of course, the most secure way to do this. Now, he doesn't have great recaptures himself, but he's saying, I don't need them. 2-6, 7-6, and 3 may be my only recapture, but I don't need it. Now, there is a little worry making a move like this, because you need to keep 2 cards in your hand to continue covering those squares if Turdz leaves them open. And those 2 cards are kind of the cards you want to be getting out of your hand next, they're the most likely to be a little weaker. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment, but hopefully we've described the sentiment of the move, and I'll come back in a sec. All right, and we're back. Now, from Turd's perspective, I think there's a few arguments here. One is 3 and 9 are bad for me. I have to start getting rid of bad squares. I should find something to do in those squares. Now, it might be tricky to find something to do, given that 6s and 7s are very vulnerable, but maybe you could do something with 6663 and have combo play against a lot of the captures, or maybe be able to lock in some kind of safety. I could, for instance, imagine playing 6663 and 3, and anything they play in 2, 2676 and 1 will be safe and potentially leaves you with a pleasant position. So I could see something like that, just saying, I need to start getting rid of these bad squares, and I think as it plays out, I'm very likely to have good sweepers, which I think he is likely to have. So that's one idea. Another idea is I'm going to leave those open, and I have some kind of setup in 1 or 7. We don't have much time left, so I'm not really going to check for those. Another idea is something in 4, saying I'm keeping side-to-side sweepers. I think, for instance, 7626 and 2676 can sweep side to side. So I stick something in 4, and hopefully those dominate. That's clearly not what happened. Was there another way to play it? Maybe, but now we'll never know. So 7626 sweeps the bottom row here. That's really important. Tezuka cannot play safely in the bottom row. And that 7626 is going to do work. Yeah, this looks good. I think Turdz is playing very well. Yeah, it's so easy for those two cards to sweep playing off the 6s. So I liked the idea of Tezuka having a 6 up and a 6 down. But this can be something that happens, and I'm not looking too closely, so maybe he's going to have good tools, we'll see. But just an initial thought is often your opponent has a problem going up and down. Like they have a difficulty taking an exact number. You can exploit them having trouble going up down. And so you go in 4 or 6 because that's the square where you can fight both of them at once. But in doing so, you made the game a side-to-side game. So you created specific problems for them, but the general gist of the game is now the way they would want it. Because we know from kind of noticing the 6s up and down that Turdz' sweepers are a lot better side to side. And now they get to play that way. And I think Turdz has done a nice job of pushing that. Yeah. And so now I think it's very, very difficult. I could imagine something like 6663 and 4, because the only capture of that gives up the card that's comboing you. And you really want to play such that 6663 never lands well. That's the one card that's not that good in Turdz' hand. Which is why I think if 6663 and 4, Turdz should like at least have as his planned move 6663 in 3. And I think that's probably just winning. I think the two sweepers are way too good there. And there is no combo potential on 5. It really hurts that 5663 is not 6663, because then you might have some way to use 8. But here, ooh, I think that's probably just over. So I think you can't really allow a formation. So how do you play out of formation here? That's tough too. Like if you start in 3, can Turdz hit you with 4? There's a decent chance he can. So how do you avoid an S or a Z or a T? Because all of those are horrible for you. You have to kind of play in 2, 8, or 9. Anything else concedes the formation. And it's so hard to play an 8. Is this a 2 position? Is this the mythical Akiyama is actually correct, and you're supposed to just go 2, just because you have to force that formation? That seems so unlikely though. And like Malboro hits you in 3, and then the sweepers are still great because 6663 is a really good sweeper in the queue. I think this might be lost. He goes in 4. I'm expecting 6663 in 3. I'm going to start bringing up the solver. I think this is a pretty cool game because you saw Tezuka play the biggest challenge he had in the position. Because I was thinking about corner plays, but the side play creates more challenge. But I think what we might have learned is Tezuka needed to play 2 or 8. The single most important thing here, with just how easy it is for level 5 cards to sweep, may have been directing the game up and down. And it may have been there was some corner to do. It may have even been that this wasn't lost immediately, though, my guess is it was. And I'm always hesitant to guess that because, the solver is crazy good at finding ties. But I didn't see a logic here that might hold. And then it's going to turn out Tezuka found a hold, But I think this is a incredibly difficult situation. And this is sort of the power of formation on first turn when all the cards click, because it's just so dangerous. And this is one of the reasons I think Turdz did so well last game when he was on second turn, taking the starter immediately and sort of forcing it out of the world of formation, where just the way stuff lines up is it's so easy to have sweepers. So, all right, the solver, it happened to check at 3rd of move, so it's not done looking. But it looks like not only did Turdz play a win, but it's possible he played the only win with this move in 7. Nope, there was also a win in 1. So there were 2 wins, both of which saying, I'm just going to dominate side to side here. Now, I was expecting 3 here, which does win. But Turdz plays 1, which, not to spoil too much, also wins. The sweepers are too good. Now, I will say 3 apparently wins 7-3 or more. There's no way to even take a 6-4 there. But no, this was just winning after the reply to Turdz' starter, which is the power of level 5, I guess. Let's see how many ties there were. But I think this was just a very difficult match for Tezuka on the open games. My guess is the potential for ties. I'm taking 1, 2, 7, and 8. If there are ties, I think those are the most likely squares. Apparently, there was not a single move with 6, 3, 6, 7 that didn't lose. And now it's moving on to the second card. But that just speaks to how incredibly dangerous this was. Now it's checking 6, 7, 6, 2 in various squares. So what were my best thoughts? Something with a 6 up in 7, something with a 6 down in 1. And I didn't start specifying cards, but just something in 2 or 8. I will note, it's checked 12 moves, and it just found its first tie. So there is a tie in the position. We will get to what that is shortly. We'll look back at the game, but those 7-6s, they're just too good. Congrats to Turdz on winning this. I think he played a really great match here. Really good feel for stuff. Maybe the best match of the tournament. I haven't really thought about that much with this one. But I think Turdz has played, especially the Open. I don't remember the closed if I saw it. But no, I didn't see the first closed game that Tezuka won. But especially this Open, he has played so well. And kind of, Tezuka's been in trouble before the point you could Tezuka's been in trouble so early in these games. Like, you look at turn 4 and you're like, oh man, I can't find anything. Well, that loses because that allows the formation. But in fact, the game was lost already. Turdz had won it after the second move. All right, we're back, and we're gonna, I guess, see the end of this game. Poor Tezuka, though. He's had so many positions where he was just, like, busted immediately. So the solver is up to 3 ties found out of the opening. But this is one of those spots so you see in random games a bunch of spots where someone's dead after the first move or has very few ties, 1, 2, 3, up to like 8 is still really low. But you very rarely see that in hand games. And this speaks to how incredibly combo kind of oriented this level 5 stuff can be. Yeah, and Tezuka's checking everything. And maybe I shouldn't have brought up the solver, but I thought the game looked over. I didn't see how there was any way to avoid a formation where you're swept. Because I thought the Q was a loss. I thought the Z's were all very straightforward losses. Turdz went with the T. T's also looked like losses. And I couldn't make a move work in 8 and 9. Because 7-6-2-6 lands in the other one, and then 2-6-7-6 sweeps you up top, and you need 6-6-6-3 to land really badly, but I couldn't get a way to do it. We can see even in the game, Turdz played 6-6-6-3 in a way that said, I'm just putting this card on the board. You can take it, you can lock it in, it doesn't matter to me. I have sweepers after. So it landing slightly badly wasn't even sufficient. The solver is up to 6 ties in the position, but this is still very low for an open hand game. Yeah. Very straightforward now for Turdz. You play your bottom sweeper in the bottom, and you play your top sweeper on top. Now, I think it said there was some way for Tezuka to only lose 6-4. It looks like he's going to lose this 7-3, but there was a way to lose this only 6-4. Obviously, it doesn't matter. Makes no difference. But this is for my claim that 6-6-6-3 and 3 was the slightly better move. It guaranteed the 7-3 win, but again, doesn't make a difference. Yeah, really brilliant match from Turdz in both the open games. Showed some the last 2 open games. One of the previous, the previous one in the open closed game, he found this fantastic idea in 9 to win it. And in this one, he just is winning on move 3 against like what looks like a pretty challenging move. 6-3, 6-7, and 6 creates difficulties by making it hard up down. Incidentally, there is at least one tie not in the 4 squares I identified. So I thought the ties would all be 1, 2, 7, 8, and there wouldn't be any in 3, 4, 6, 9. It turns out there is at least one tie in one of the other squares. And luckily, waiting for the end of the game has given us enough time for the solver to mostly run through the moves. But yeah, congrats to Turdz. Really big win here for him. Advances to the semifinals. Is in very good shape to potentially take down a tournament. And I think playing really, really well in the open here. All right, solver is past the 60% mark. Yeah, he gets the 7-3. Do we know which square Tezuka played first? Can we deduce this? Because we know Tezuka played 2-6-7-6 in one or 2, and Turdz played in the other. We can deduce it. We know Tezuka must have played in 1 of 2 or 3. We know Tezuka must have played in 2 because he did lock in 1. Probably other ways to figure that out too, like counting. But so the game's move order was 5, 6, 7, 4, 1, 9, 8, 2, 3. And Turdz gets a win and advances to, as I said, the semifinals, where he will meet Vid, who lost the open to DJ but won both of the closed. Nice job by DJ, incidentally. And the other semifinals will be the winner of Adi Seto. Seto won the Open. Did he win? Did he advance, or did he win the Open alone? Quickly bring this up. Seto did advance. He won a closed game as well. And Stuff Akiyama will determine the final semifinalist. Okay, I'm going to close that. And I'm not going to pop you over to the solver because I want it to be a surprise where the ties are, but we may as well say where the ones that have been found so far are. So far, it has found 7 tying moves, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 losses. So where are them ties? Ooh, once I close the Chrome page, it is running this faster, so I'm going to let it finish up because it's almost done, and then we'll count how many ties per square. Okay, so it ended up finding 13 ties, which was way more than I expected. Now, still, that means it found 27 losses. This was a very, very good position for Turdz out of the opening. Maybe not quite as deadly as it may have looked, but maybe. All right, how many ties in one? One had 0 ties. No, I thought that was one of the better squares. How many ties? Let's do the squares I didn't like. How many ties in 4? 4 had 1 tie. All right, so 4 is better than 1, already proving me incorrect. How many ties in 3? 3 had 2 ties. Huh. Interesting. All right, so 2 for 3. God, I gotta write this down. All right, so we have 1 had 0. I should really do this in order. 4 had 1. 3 had 2. So 3 is currently our most likely square to tie. Not a square I thought was likely. 6, the one played in the game, had 0 ties. So there was a tie in 4. What was the tie in 4? That's curious. Because that feels like it should have very similar problems. It was, the tie in 4 was 5, 6, 6, 3, and 4. Huh. All right then. So it goes. What's next? Let's do 9. We got 7, 8, 9, and 2 left. Right, let's do 7 next. 7 had 3 ties. Okay, I underrated 7. 9 had... No, I liked 7. 7 was one of the ones I liked. I'm already forgetting. I was thinking 7 was 9. I'm gone. All right, how many did 9 have? 9 had 1 tie. Yeah, we've got 2 and 8 left. Let's do 2. 2 had 3 ties. And 8 had, we could get this by process of elimination, but we know the total number of ties. 8 had 2 ties. So the best squares were 2 and 7, followed by 3 and 8. So I thought the best squares were 1, 2, 7, and 8, and I was right about 3 of those, but 1 was actually terrible, and I underestimated 3. All right, not terrible though. Anyhow, very difficult position off the opener. Really easy to lose these. But I think it's interesting to compare 2 and 8 to 4 and 6. And between 2 and 8, there were 5 ties, and between 4 and 6, there was 1 tie. So even though a lot of the challenges you could create were with a 6 up and a 6 down, those were much less important than making it up-down. Up-down game is what Tezuka needed here. Could not survive, or very unlikely to survive, a side-to-side game. And then there's the question of the ties in the corners. What numbers did they have facing out? So we'll flip over to the solver. and there were 2 ties in 3. Let's find them. We have the second card to 3. 2 is actually the third card, so 2, 6, 7, 6 in 3, or 5, 6, 6, 3 in 3. Not an obvious pattern there to why those 2 cards would work. Maybe you've seen one, but I haven't figured it out, at least at a glance. There's one card in 9 that ties. Has to be 5, 6, 6, 3. We're seeing some weak corners. Just something in a weak corner. The setup, even without setting something up, doesn't commit to anything and doesn't put out numbers that are super comboable. Does seem to be going better. That's interesting. Okay, and there are 0 ties in 1, so we don't have to check that, and 3 ties in 7. We have our final card, 5, 6, 6, 3, and 7. Okay, so getting 5, 6, 6, 3 out of the hand makes sense. That checks out. We have 2, 6, 7, 6, and 7. Another, this is just kind of a weak corner. It sets up a same in 8, but not super obvious what it does. 6, 7, 6, 2, and 7. I guess that has the 6 out, which is useful. Anyways, well, I'm not sure on patterns there. I would suggest the big takeaway is that 2 and 8 were a lot better than 4 and 6. This reminds me actually of, sorry for the constant reminders, but at the very start of the return, or like right before the return, when I was starting to put some videos together and some triple triad things together, which did help inspire the return to happen, for what that's worth, I played a game against Deli where I was, moving cards around in a graphics thing, and we put together hands and we played a game. And I think it was basically the same as this game. Deli stuck a card in 5 as his starter. I played a card, I believe, in 6. I think it was the exact same move order as this game. I played a card in 6 that was just really difficult for him to deal with, and I thought, I'm doing great. This is great. He's created no problems for me. I have created substantial problems for him. And then Deli sent a message. Sorry I'm taking a while, just trying to figure out which way to beat you. Brutal. Just absolutely brutal message. And I thought I was doing well. And the solver confirmed, yes, he had multiple wins there. And he plays a move and wins. Or like multiple moves, maybe that were really close to winning. I think it's possible I had a tie, but it was some like insane move I just couldn't find. And anyway, point was basically we played the same game, basically same move order, and he just has completely perfect sweepers at the end. And it doesn't matter that I played the cards with the most annoying numbers for him currently out. He's just going to slaughter me at the end. And because he wanted a side-to-side game, and I needed to basically prevent that at all costs. And I lost the exact same way Tezuka did here, and I was thoroughly confused how I had gotten into so much trouble. So I guess the lesson here is I am Tezuka, Deli is Turdz, and tragically, Tezuka and I lose this round. That was a brutal game. Just think, you're playing a game, you've made a move you think is good, and your opponent, who is like excellent, so you know when they say this, it's like, it means something, says, just figuring out which way to beat you. Alright, we'll end on that.